Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today, by popular demand, we will be reviewing every single studio album from legendary Norwegian black metal crew Emperor. But first, I would like to announce that the Metal Meltdown also, by popular demand, will be hosting a very special Resident Evil 4 drinking game this coming Friday, March 1st, at approximately 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Metal Meltdown. I love Resident Evil, y'all love Resident Evil, y'all have consistently loved it when we play Resident Evil here on the Metal Meltdown, and ever since I got the brand new Xbox, some of y'all have been like, hey, when are we gonna play some Resident Evil again, please and thank you, and I heard you, here you are, you're welcome. We're gonna play one of the most iconic, one of the most critically acclaimed, and one of the best video games of all time, specifically the 2023 remake, and as per the norm with any Metal Meltdown live stream, we're gonna shoot the shit and party and drink and whatever else. It'll be dumb, it'll be stupid, it'll be loud, it'll be fun! So pop on by, say hello, grab a drink once again this coming Friday, March 1st at approximately 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Metal Meltdown. Alright, now that we've got that out of the way, let's review every single album from Emperor. But here's the thing, Emperor only have 4 full-blown studio albums to their name. So in order to beef things up, we will also be talking about the 1992 demo album, Wrath of the Tyrant, and the self-titled Emperor EP from 1993. Aside from that particular demo and that particular EP, I am not interested in demos and EPs today, nor am I interested in compilation albums, or remix albums, or live albums, or anything released by any kind of solo or side project. We are talking about Emperor, we are talking about the 4 albums, and the 1 EP, and the 1 demo. I will also be talking about each album in order of release and assigning each a score out of 5, 5 obviously being the best, and 0 obviously being the worst. First up, we have the Wrath of the Tyrant demo album, released in July 1992 via Wild Rags Records, and I'm immediately going to piss off the old fuddy-duddy metalheads and the true black metal purists right away with this one, because I'm not a fan of this album whatsoever. I think it's an incomprehensible and slightly ridiculous mess, to be honest. And before somebody comes in crying and moaning and bitching and whining, yes, I am well aware that this is a demo and would not have the same level of production quality as a full-blown studio album. Take, for instance, In the Nightside Eclipse or Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk, just as an example. I'm also well aware that these guys were like 17, 18 years old when they put this shit together. And I'm also well aware that if you were like a black metal fan in 1992, if you were listening to black metal in 1992, if you were in a black metal band in 1992, if you had anything to do with black metal in 1992, this was probably the motherfucking shit. I get it, I understand that, I acknowledge that, but also, it just sucks. I know it's probably going to sound so fucking lame and nerdy and even pointless to complain about, like, the production quality of, like, a black metal demo from 1992, but the fact is, a good chunk of the issues I have with this demo album stem from how it's been produced, from how it's been mixed and mastered and presented. It's very raw and noisy to the point of being ugly and obnoxious and just completely incomprehensible. Like, every once in a while, I can kind of hear like a riff or a groove or a simple progression that I can kind of follow, but most of the time I'm just getting walls and walls of static and noise and feedback and ghoulish screaming vocals. Now, I will say that the album does have a very cold, menacing atmosphere and aura, and I will also say that the parts that I can follow are pretty decent. I mean, it's pretty standard second wave black metal stuff, but it's passionately performed. It's got a lot of energy and rage. But for a majority of this album's 32-minute runtime, I'm rolling my eyes and plugging my ears. I am not a fan whatsoever. I know there's a solid chance I'm going to be in the minority. I don't give a shit. 1 out of 5. In my opinion, this is a terrible record, and I don't ever really want to listen to it again. Next up, we have a self-titled EP released in May 1993 via Candlelight Records. Fun fact, this was later re-released later that same year as a split album with Hordane's Land from Enslaved. Boom, there you go. A little piece of old school second wave black metal trivia, just in case you're on your way to a fucking black metal trivia night at the local pub or whatever later on after this. I don't fucking know. That kind of sounds preposterous now that I say that out loud. Although, you know, in my defense, I've been to a metal trivia night here in Toronto at a place called Burrell. So who knows? Maybe you'll go to one later on too, and maybe this will be useful. I don't fucking know. I also kind of don't care. Let's actually talk about the fucking EP. I like it marginally better than Wrath of the Tyrant. I will say that. I like it a little bit more. It's still got that very raw, primitive, lo-fi, noisy, classic black metal production that people love. Good for them. But I, you know, this time around, I'll give the band credit. I can actually hear some melodies. I can actually hear some of the arrangements, and I can follow it a lot better as well. And because of that, I am enjoying this, like, much more. Like, this is an improvement. Not a massive one, but an improvement nonetheless. I Am the Black Wizards is appropriately icy and fierce and powerful. Lots of venomous black metal vocal displays and some epic sweeping riffs. Cosmic Keys to My Creations and Times has some nice otherworldly moments to it. It does feel a little bit repetitive and drawn out in some sections as we kind of keep simmering on this like tremolo black metal riffing for like a hot minute, but a neat track, all things considered. And these new updated versions of Night of the Graveless Souls and Wrath of the Tyrant, I think are pretty solid as well. If this had a more full-bodied sound with instruments more present in the forefront, if the noisier, the more raw black metal aesthetics were kind of tuned down at the very least, I could see myself giving this a 2.5 out of 5. As it stands, it's a 2 out of 5. I do like it better than Wrath of the Tyrant, but I wouldn't say overall that I'm like a huge fan, you know? And now we have finally arrived to In the Nightside Eclipse, the band's debut full-length studio album, released in February 1994 via Candlelight Records, and I promise we're done talking shit about Emperor. I fucking promise you, this album is fucking great. It's almost as if Emperor saw like 30 years into the fucking future. Almost exactly 30 years into the fucking future. To the moment where I was recording this fucking video and they went, you know what, Robert? You know what? I got you. I got you. I hear you. And I got you. Because this is everything that I love and that I want from Emperor. It's big, it's bold, it's imaginative, it's ambitious, and so entertaining and exciting as a result. Fantastic use of like synthesizers and keyboards, nice clean production that lets everything pop and sizzle, but it still retains a little bit of that like super classic underground like black metal spice. It's so dark and so cold and so menacing with so many great fucking moments. You've got Into the Infinity of Thoughts, for instance, which has this chilling, haunting, dare I say even kind of cosmic feel to it, with these very simplistic but effective like choral vocals and keyboards gently flying over top some classic old school black metal brutality. You have The Burning Shadow of Silence, which has this much more hellish and like manic kind of aggression fueling everything. It just sounds like a group of like ice demons like rallying together. Love The Majesty of the Night Sky as well, which is just a huge number. I'm kind of in awe of it and its different string and synth and vocal dynamics. It has a more dramatic, dare I even say, theatrical kind of flavor and vibe to it, which I'm really enjoying. And these new versions of Cosmic Keys to My Creations and Ties and I Am the Black Wizards are fucking excellent as well. I can honestly go on and on. I mean, Beyond the Vast Forest, Towards the Pantheon, the closing number, Gypsy. Every single song here is just fucking incredible. Masterful black metal production and songwriting and songcraft. I'm feeling a very strong 4.5 out of 5. It's incredible. An all-time classic fucking record. It's everything I want and love about Emperor. It's great. Fuck yeah. Go check it out. You probably already have, because it's like an iconic album, but just in case you haven't, go check it out. And man, if you thought that was good, if you thought that was the fucking shit, Just wait until you hear Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk, released in May 1997 via Candlelight Records and Century Black. This, friends, metalheads of the internet, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, is quite possibly one of the best black metal albums ever made. It's like everything that I loved about In the Nightside Eclipse cranked all the way up to fucking 11, man. There's more string and synthesizer stuff, more orchestral stuff in general. In fact, this album specifically is highlighted as a pioneering album for symphonic black metal. The production is astounding as well. I mean, sonically, this is one of the best produced black metal albums ever. The orchestral stuff is incredibly well balanced, despite occasionally being quite bombastic, and everything else is so clear and so punchy and so powerful. Like that percussion especially, that just feels like somebody kicking me in the chest over and over and over again. Love the way that vocals and guitar is mixed as well. They have a lot of power, but they're occasionally a little bit more subdued so as to provide the orchestral and symphonic stuff a little bit more room to breathe, and so as to complement that stuff much better. The result is an album that is absolutely ferocious, incredibly compelling, more ambitious, more cinematic, more immersive, more dramatic than In the Nightside Eclipse, and once again, one of the best black metal albums ever made. The opening number, Alsat Ver the Oath, opens this thing on a fantastic note. It's very ominous, very haunting, almost a claustrophobic kind of feel, but that dissipates quickly as it just grows and blossoms with like howling, like moaning vocals and some like epic drum work. A lot of symphonic bluster here with some very regal, brassy horn work as well. Love that shit. Like, every time I get to maybe, like, the last minute of this song, I feel like I should bow, like someone of royalty and importance is about to walk into the room. Thus Spake the Night Spirit as well does a great job at combining cold, icy, chilling black metal sounds and textures with some more melodic guitar licks and leads. Love those really slow, almost doomy progressions near the end as well, complemented very nicely by some more, like, moaning choral vocals. Then there's the acclamation of Bonds, which just towers over you. It's got bells, it's got wailing vocals, it's got classic black metal brutality. The closing number as well, Opus A Satana, is genuinely fucking beautiful. Like, an incredibly well-composed and executed piece of, like, full-on orchestral classical bombast. God damn, we've only scratched the surface of this fucking record, too. There's so much going on, so many layers, so many twists and turns. The Wanderer, for instance, is, like, really creepy and mysterious, but really alluring and entrancing as a result. Dare I say, even hypnotic. And then there's, Ye in Trans Imperium, which has, like, full-blown, over-the-top, like, symphonic black metal, melodic black metal fucking chaos nailed to a fucking T, man. It even throws in some wild, clean vocals from Ihsahn, just absolutely nailing it. Honestly, I think this is a perfect album. Strong 5 out of 5. This is more action-packed than whatever your favorite fucking action movie is, period. I don't even need to know what your favorite action movie is. I just know that this is more action-packed than that, period. Check it out if you haven't already, but I mean, this is Emperor's most iconic album, their most influential album. It is often ranked as their best, so there's a solid chance you already have. But hey, just in case, maybe you tuned into this wanting to hear about Emperor for literally the first time ever, please go listen to this. Fucking please, 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 please. You won't regret it. Next up, we have 9 Equilibrium, or IX Equilibrium, for those of you who don't know Roman numerals. Now you know. Hey, look, another fun little piece of trivia that maybe isn't relevant to black metal trivia night, but whatever. Anyways, 9 Equilibrium, released in March 1999 via Candlelight Records and Century Media Records. And I like this record. I think it's really good. I would even argue that it's great. But it definitely falls short just ever so slightly of In the Nightside Eclipse, and especially of Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk. And, like, I can't really be mad at it for that, because, like, at a certain point, you know, you can only break the glass ceiling so many times. You can only capture lightning in a bottle so many fucking times, you know? You can only reinvent the wheel so many fucking times, you know? Like, it happens. It's okay. I'm not mad or nothing, but I will point out, if we're looking at all these albums side by side, this is not as strong as the previous two, but it is in its own right and regard a pretty solid blast of Norwegian symphonic black metal brutality. Curse You All Men, for instance, has a very spiteful, hateful energy that complements the bombastic, hellish black metal quite nicely. The Crystallizing Reason as well throws in these sick, churning grooves that feel more on par with, like, some really gnarly fucking tech death of the time, but obviously, like, put through, like, a classic black metal filter. I love these little more intense bursts of full-on, like, blast beats and shit as well, providing some contrast and spice. This Source of Icon E is a pretty exhilarating little cut with some high-octane, extreme guitar wailing. It's thunderous, it's big, it's mean. I like a lot of the guitar shredding on Warriors of Modern Death as well. It weirdly kind of feels like Sound of Perseverance era Death in a way, especially with that guitar tone. I'm feeling a 4 to 5 on this bad boy. It's not as varied, it's not as dynamic, and it's not as ambitious as previous records. But again, in its own right and regard, it is well made, it is entertaining, and I think maybe if you were looking for something a little less chaotic and maybe a little bit more down to earth, this would do just fine. Like maybe you don't want that super fucking over the top, theatrical, dramatic, like Anthems to the Welkin shit. I get it, like everyone has their thing, whatever. Maybe this will be more your style if that's the case, if I'm describing you. No worries, more power to ya. And finally, this brings us to Prometheus, the Discipline of Fire and Demise, released in October 2001 via Candlelight and Nuclear Blast Records. This would end up being Emperor's final studio album before disbanding, and in retrospect, it's very clear that Ihsahn was starting to build up a potential roadmap for his solo career, because this is a much more progressive record with a lot more twists and turns that I would associate with his solo catalog than I would with, say, you know, Emperor and, like, you know, Wrath for the Tyrant and even in the Nightside Eclipse and Anthems. That's not a bad thing, though. I like Ihsahn. I like a lot of his solo stuff. I haven't heard all of it, but the stuff I've heard, I've enjoyed. And the different kind of, like, more progressive flavors, the different vocal textures, the different kinds of, like, guitar riffs and passages and progressions that he brings into this, I think it complements Emperor's take on black metal quite nicely. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, like, Enslaved when they were starting to go into more progressive territory. I'm also weirdly, again, reminded of, like, the Sound of Perseverance era Death and stuff that Chuck Schuldiner did afterwards, like Control Denied to a certain extent. Like, it's a very creative and complex record, and a very intriguing record as well as a result of that. Opening number, The Eruption, for instance, has some lumbering, towering, almost avant-garde black metal-ish riffs moving at a kind of unorthodox rhythm and pace that I find really interesting. There's also some tech death riffage here, some like wailing, anguished clean vocals and synthesizers. The use of, like, harpsichord in the very beginning as well is really cool, and I like how that transitions into some more, like, smoky, kind of confused, progressive black metal. This whole thing honestly kind of feels like something that maybe Dod Heimsgard would whip up nowadays. Then there's Depraved, which plays around with a bunch of different tempos and grooves and rhythms and riffs. It kind of fluctuates between a variety of different paces and ideas. At times it has these more chaotic riffs that wouldn't be out of place on a Gorguts record at the time, and by the time we get to the end of this, we have some more adventurous kind of like melodic black metal with some muscular howling vocals as well. Then there's Empty, which has a bunch of, like, weird, kind of funky synthesizer parts popping in and out of some more melodic, progressive black metal. The Tongue of Fire, which has some really venomous, like, black metal shrieking vocals and some really dramatic strings and some great progressions and some very emotive and cathartic riffs and hooks. The closing number, Thorns on My Grave, is pretty badass as well. Like, there's some really ferocious string work alongside, like, this battering old-school black metal percussion that just makes this whole thing sound, like, really fucking evil and intense. This is definitely the weirdest thing that Emperor put out, but I really respect and admire this thing for being as weird as it is. And I thoroughly enjoy it all the way through from start to finish as well. I'm feeling a solid 4.5 out of 5. I think it's very well made. I think it's kind of underrated in some aspects as well. I think a lot of people, like, after Anthems, I think people kind of tune out, and that's a shame because this thing's pretty fucking cool. I would even make an argument that maybe in retrospect this thing was kind of ahead of its time, because there's a lot of stuff happening in avant-garde and progressive black metal that obviously Ihsahn would go on to implement into his solo catalog, but like also that like I hear in a lot of other bands right now that I can maybe trace back to this album, like straight the fuck up. I'm not really sure where everyone's going to stand on this particular album, but I kind of think it's awesome. I kind of love it. I kind of want to pick it up on vinyl. 4.5 out of 5, I think it's incredible. I don't know. I got a funny feeling I'm in the minority on this one. I don't know, but... C'est la vie, whatever. And voila! Reviewing every Emperor album. Finally, been wanting to do this for a while. I was hoping to do this with a special guest. I had one locked in at one point, but it just didn't work out. It's all good. No harm done. Everyone gets busy. Shit happens. At least we finally got to do this video. You've been asking for it. You've been wanting it. I hope you enjoyed it. Now it's your turn to tell me, what's your favorite Emperor album? How would you rank everything in their discography? Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Your turn. Tell me. I don't fucking know anymore. I'm handing this off to you. Press this button to subscribe. Look, there's even more videos here. Pick up some merch on Redbubble. Join us on Discord. Tune into our live stream on March 1st. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.